Hi there, and welcome everybody to the next session at our ACES Fall Conference. For this session, we're talking about ChatGPT and other large language models, and we're talking about the threats they present to us, the promise, some of the news that's going on. Introducing myself, my name is Samantha Enslen, and I have a few different hats that I wear. On a day-to-day basis, I am the founder and president of Dragonfly Editorial. We're a creative agency that serves customers all around the United States. I also write for the Grammar Girl podcast. I spent about 7 years on the executive board of ACES, particularly working on our Tracking Changes newsletter. And I also belong to an association called the Association of Proposal Management Professionals. Basically, we write and edit really technical documents. So this session is a follow-on to a webinar that I gave in the spring on the very same topic, but this technology is moving so quickly, I felt that 6 months later, we needed to have a recap of what's going on. So today I'm going to give it a little bit different focus. I'm going to talk some about the technology itself, the promise, what I see as the reality, some of the news that's going on related to AI, content, and creativity, and then what I personally see as some of the threats that AI presents to us as creative professionals and as human beings. I will definitely put in a disclaimer that the opinions in this session are mine alone. They do not represent ACES. They don't necessarily even represent my colleagues here at Dragonfly. I want to give you my real personal hot take on this technology. So let's start with very, very quick summary of the basics. What is this technology we're talking about? We're talking about large language models that are a form of AI that are called a neural network. They're called that because they're based on the way the neurons in our brain fire and connect rapid fire with each other. And these systems have been taught over time to interpret and reproduce human language and human concepts very accurately. The way that they've done that is that they were trained on human writing. What that means is that these chatbots like AI or Google Bard or Bing Chat, as well as like literally a host of other systems, have spent the past years, without our knowing it, scouring the web, what they call scraping web content, reading just about everything there is to be read. And over time, what that has given them the ability to do is to predict what's going to come next in any given sentence. This is a technology that we've seen at play already in our day-to-day life. We may just not have realized it was AI. For example, if you guys use Gmail, you might have noticed that if you start to type THA, Gmail will auto-populate what it thinks is probably going to be the next words you write. It's predicting what's coming next. In the same way, you see this on your phone all the time. You might type, "I'm on my wait," but the phone can predict what you actually meant to say, and it'll just change it for you to "I'm on my way." Now, ChatGPT and other systems do this on a grand scale. You can ask them just about any question, and it will output a rather extensive response. We could ask it, "Tell us about ACES," and it'll tell us about ACES. We could ask about the history of Barbie, and it'll give us a pretty cogent summary about the history of Barbie. We can even ask ChatGPT to edit content for us. Here's a before and after sample. Now, I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a second to let you look at this. It did edit the content. Is what's after better than what was input? I'm going to let you decide. And these slides will all be available for everybody to review after this if you want to look at this more closely. So with this kind of like amazing leap forward in what the internet can just pop out for us with a single prompt, the promise is pretty big. AI can edit everything for us. It can write everything. We're going to be faster. We're going to be more efficient. All our drudge work will go away. And, by the way, it's going to enhance our work. So our creativity will be just like supercharged off the roof. Okay, that's the promise. What's the reality? I'll tell you what my reality is so far. The answer to all these things is, yeah, that's kind of true. AI can edit anything you put into there. But do I actually agree with the choices it makes? Am I confident that it can edit according to a given editorial style, whether it's AMA, Chicago, what have you? Am I confident it's not going to make substantive changes that the author might not have wanted? I'm not confident in that yet, based on the work that sample edits that I have put into these systems. AI can write everything. Yep, that is so true. Any question you give ChatGPT, it will give you an answer. But a lot of the output is generic. Some of it is wildly untrue. Some of it, even worse, is subtly untrue in ways that you wouldn't even notice. A casual reader wouldn't notice, or somebody who wasn't an expert in the area you asked it about. The content can be outdated. It can be unreliable. That leads us to the second point. Oh, if we use these technologies, all the drudge work will go away. Well, yeah, it can do stuff really quickly, but if you have to check behind every single thing it does, that sounds pretty boring too. And then finally, AI will supercharge your creativity. My experience has been the exact opposite. I have asked ChatGPT to provide an outline for me of a blog that I need to write, or a draft of a blog I need to write. That should help me work more quickly, right? My experience has been the opposite. It's given me writer's block. Like, once I saw what ChatGPT created on a topic, I don't want to do the same thing, because that's plagiarizing ChatGPT, which is plagiarizing content that it took from other sources. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to write this in a different way? I found that it hurt my creativity rather than helping it. Now, there are uses for this. I strongly suggest that you hop onto the webinar that ACES gave just a couple months ago on using ChatGPT for editors. This was a great session. I watched it. I took notes. I'm actually using some of the advice that was given here. So if you want to know how this can work for you, hop onto this webinar. It was great. But what I want to talk about is the bigger picture of AI, how it's affecting us, again, as creative professionals, and what we may see going on in our industry moving forward. So where shall we start? Let's start with the news. What happened between our last webinar in the spring and now? Why not start with Mata v. Avianca? So y'all may have heard this. In May, there was a lawyer in New Jersey, Stephen Schwartz, who used ChatGPT to write one of his legal briefs. Seems reasonable enough. However, 6 of the cases he cited in that brief turned out to be completely made up by ChatGPT. This was even after he asked ChatGPT if the cases were real, and ChatGPT responded, "They are real and can be found in reputable legal databases such as LexisNexis and Westlaw." Needless to say, opposing counsel discovered these flaws, and the lawyer was not only embarrassed, but fined for this gaffe. Next, we have Justine Bateman, actress, screenwriter, spokesperson, stepping into the fray. She is one of the celebrities who's leading the Writers Guild of America strike that is challenging the what's it called, the AMPTA, which is essentially the Association of Representing Hollywood Studios and Streamers. A number of the demands that the Writers Guild is making have to do with the role of AI and how that could potentially take away jobs and the creative process from active screenwriters. So far, the Guild has been, so far the association has been unwilling to even talk about any of the demands that Justine and colleagues are making to protect their creative authenticity. In Justine's words, AI is being used in the arts for greed, trained on all of our past work. This is a theme that you're going to start seeing, that content pushed out by AIs, that's great and all, but where did it come from? It didn't come from the ether. It came from using the creative work that other human beings have written literally over the centuries. Everything that is now housed on the internet that these systems could scrape. We saw a big kerfluffle in the EU. In June, the European Parliament put together a draft bill essentially regulating AI. Now, it addressed some bigger picture social issues like, should AI be used to monitor the expression of children in classrooms to see if they're really paying attention or not? But some of the recommendations that are relevant to us in the content world, there's two of them. One, it bans these draft statutes ban the use of any copyrighted material in the training of AI systems. That has huge implications because that's how AIs get their data, by going on the internet and reading things that other people have written. And the majority of content on the web is copyrighted. So if these AI bots are prevented from scraping that content, that introduces an existential crisis for those systems. The other tenet of these draft guidelines that are relevant to us is that it requires any AI-generated content on the net be labeled as such. We'll talk later about why that's particularly important, because there's tons of content that's on the web right now that is AI-generated, but it's not labeled as such and is being passed off as human-generated. All right, what else happened? And here's what the EU has to say in this. It has implications for truth and what's considered truth. All right, in July, we got Sarah Silverman hopping into the fray. She sued OpenAI and Meta for copyright infringement, essentially alleging that they had scraped her book called The Bedwetter, in her words, and copied it without her consent, without credit, and without compensation. Two other authors, actually many authors, are in a legal process right now. Authors Mona Awad and Paul Tremblay filed a similar suit against OpenAI, and their suit, again, alleges copyright infringement of their intellectual property, the books that they wrote. And they cite as proof of this that you could type into ChatGPT, for example, to give a summary of one of their books, and ChatGPT can provide an extremely detailed summary. And so their contention is the only way these AIs could have done that is if they had illegally scraped their content. And they allege that the AIs are essentially unfairly profiting from from stolen writing and ideas. So in our news section here, the list goes on. Getty Images is suing Stability AI, who is the maker of a system called Stable Diffusion, alleging that it has scraped tons and tons, thousands upon thousands of its photographs as a way to teach Stable Diffusion how to work. Their suit alleges brazen infringement of intellectual property. In August, we got the New York Times stepping into the fray. They very specifically changed their terms of service in August to prohibit AI companies from being able to scrape the articles and images on their website. Essentially, they are very concerned that AI-generated news outlets are, as Sarah Silverman said, scraping their content without consent, without credit, without compensation, dumping it onto other websites, essentially building a profit base on the labor of New York Times journalists, writers, and editors. Lord knows the newspaper industry is having enough trouble right now. So New York Times is like, you're going to steal our content too? No. So they, I don't have a great quote from New York Times because they're being very close-lipped about it, but it is possible that they will also open a suit against OpenAI. Final couple pieces of news. In August, there was one of the first copyright cases regarding AI-generated content. The U.S. District Court Judge Beryl Howell ruled that AI-generated content cannot be copyrighted. She made an interesting note that copyright has never been granted to any work that is absent a guiding human hand, which I think is a beautiful way of putting it, and states that human authorship is a bedrock requirement of copyright. So this also introduces, many issues. If you're producing AI-generated content on the web, well, if this holding stands, you won't be able to copyright it. What if you partly use AI to generate your content? Can you copyright that? We're going to see how this all plays out over time. And then the final goofy piece of AI content news from this summer is the great aromatic water mix incident. You may have heard about this. There was a New Zealand supermarket called Pack and Save that created a AI bot whereby you could enter in a list of ingredients that you happen to have in the house, and it would produce, bing, a recipe for you. Well, someone doing a prank entered in that its ingredients that he had in his house were water, bleach, and ammonia. But instead of flagging this as a problem, the AI created a recipe, which it called aromatic water mix, otherwise known as deadly chlorine gas. So again, we start to see some of the issues with unregulated AI generating content and dumping it out on the internet. So this is some of the news events that are going on. What does this all mean for us as content creators, as editors, as people who live in the creative, who live a creative profession, who are human beings? Well, I will talk to you a little bit about what I think are some of the threats and what I see coming in the future. Again, opinions are my own, not necessarily those of ACES. So one of the things that that I see here already and see coming is what could be known as the enshittification of the web. That is not my terminology. That was coined by IT writer Gary Marcus. So here's what's happening. Right now, more AI-generated content is being dumped onto the web than our search engines can even keep up with. You may have noticed that Google searches don't seem to be as good as they used to be. You have to wade through a lot more crappy results to maybe find one or two hidden around there that are even useful. There's just, as more AI generated crap, if you will, gets dumped onto the web, the portion of legit content gets smaller and smaller and harder to find. This is dangerous with any type of content. It's particularly dangerous, I might argue, with news sites. There is a watchdog group called NewsGuard that started tracking the proliferation of purely AI generated news sites. They started looking at this in May. In May 8th, they tracked 49 sites that were doing this. Just a few weeks later, May 21st, they found 125 sites. Now here we are, their last numbers are from August 8th, where they found 452 sites. These sites look fairly innocuous. They tend to have names like Top News Daily or the Daily Times Update. And they're written in like languages throughout the world. Arabic, Chinese, English, Tagalog, like all kinds of languages. So it's, in other words, it's a problem not just for English language audiences, it's a problem everywhere. There was an open letter written by AP, Gannett, and several other news agencies about this problem. You know, and here's their take. The flood of content can distort facts and leave the public with no basis to discern what's true and what's made up. So if you've been an ACES member for a while, you know that fact checking has been an important theme in all of our conferences over the past 10 years at least that I have been a member. The proliferation of fake news sites is going to make this problem much worse. Being able to identify fake news and fake facts is going to make this problem much worse. So what's another threat that I see coming in the future? I'm going to call it the decline and fall of Amazon and Goodreads. Same thing that's happening on the web is happening on Amazon. Because of the way that Kindle Direct Publishing works, it essentially allows anybody to upload a book to Amazon. ISBN numbers are free, so there's really just not a lot of reason not to. So to my opinion, Amazon has already become a bit of a cesspool with so many garbage books on there. Don't even get me started on the porn that's on Amazon. Well, now that AI can generate books in the blink of an eye, it's getting much worse. The New York Times reported that essentially fake AI generated travel books are flooding Amazon with inaccurate, sometimes even dangerous information. This was spotted by some writers in June of this year. This is a screen grab from the bestseller list for the category Teen and Young Adult Contemporary Romance. These were the best sellers on Amazon in June in that category, including such winners as Apricot Barcode Architecture and Fanatical Leader. So, like, what is this stuff that's being dumped onto Amazon that's clogging it up? If just putting fake books on isn't bad enough, authors' names are often also being stolen. This is Jane Friedman, who is a 100% legit author. You may have read some of her books. She's the author of The Business of Being a Writer, published by Chicago Press, and she's a contributor to What Editors Do, also published by Chicago. Well, this summer, she happened to be on Amazon, and I guess happened to be looking at her profile and noticed there were books on there with her name on them that she had not written. Many books, these just two of them. Jane contacted Amazon these were also on Goodreads, with a lot of struggle, was able to have them get taken down. She posted about it on Twitter, and another fellow author said, oh yeah, last week I had to report 29 illegitimate books that were published under my name. So this is a huge problem that is being exacerbated by the speed at which malicious characters can produce whole books using AI software. In Jane's words, we desperately need guardrails on this landslide of misattribution and misinformation. Another issue that I think is a threat presented by our new AIs is what I'm going to call the announcement of truth. So what I would like to posit here is that there's a distinct difference between traditional search that we would do on Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever your search engine was, and new AI-driven search, which would be asking a question of ChatGPT or asking a question of Google Bard or Bing Chat or Google SGE, which stands for like Search Generative Experience. These are all the new cadre of AI-driven search engines. Well, the difference is in traditional search, you ask a question and you are provided with a list of sites where you may be able to find information on this topic. The new search just gives you an answer. Sounds like it might be better, but the question is it better? Is it better to have the truth announced to you, or is it better for you to be given resources where you can find what you think is a valid answer? Now, here's a couple examples of what that looks like in real life. These are not searches that I did. These were done by tech writer Avram Pelch. For example, he asked Google GSE, which is their Google AI search, to tell about the positive effects of genocide. And darned if it doesn't make genocide sound pretty good. If you do a traditional Google search on the same topic, you get what you get with a Google search. You get a list of sites that may deal with this topic, and then you can parse through yourself to see if there's any information that's relevant. Here's another search that Avram did. What's better, democracy or fascism? Well, this answer is actually making fascism look pretty good. Again, whereas if you do a traditional search, you get information from a variety of sources. You're going to have to go through yourself and find the answer. Find what you consider a valid answer from a reputable source. So the issue also with this, as we know, is that these search engines often provide incorrect answers, or again, answers that are perhaps even worse, subtly incorrect. And they do it with a lot of confidence. They're just announcing, here's what you asked for, and here's the answer. Problem, people can get a false sense of confidence from what is really just a computer program outputting probability-based text. We're losing hold of we're losing hold of a connection with truth, and that's exacerbated by the fact that most of these systems don't cite their sources. As this proceeds forward, we might move into what you even might call the disintegration of reality. And this is related. There's been a couple papers published, peer-reviewed papers published recently that talk about what is called the curse of recursion. So let me explain this to you. Right now, to create its content, an AI system, our current AI systems have absorbed, scraped, slurped up years of content, human-generated content that's been put on the web. It's absorbed all that content, integrated it into its memory, and now can output AI generated content as a result. And it's doing that at a fast and furious pace. So now AIs looking at the web are not just looking at the content that we humans wrote, they're also looking at more AI generated content and outputting content based on that. And then the newer AIs are looking at all of that AI generated content plus the human content and generating content based on that. So what these papers ask is a key question. What will happen to GPT models once large language models have contributed much of the language that's found online? And here's the result. They have found that this type of content, this recursive content, leads to irreversible defects in the resulting models. In other words, this is called model collapse. And one of the papers noted that they were surprised to observe how quickly this model collapse happens. This is similar to an analogy to this is what is known as generation loss. Any of you who are designers might be familiar with this concept. If you take a photograph and then make multiple copies of that photograph, the quality degrades. And then if you make even more copies of that photograph, the quality degrades further and further. And so that is what is a threat to content, to the legitimacy of content online as AI models start learning from other AI models and copying content that other AI models have generated. What's going to be true anymore? This is directly related to what we talked about earlier, the theft of intellectual property. This is what all the writers, the New York Times, other news organizations are alleging, is that these models are scraping up their writing, their years of labor, the real dollars of investment that they've put into creating well-researched, thought-out content, and they're just building their output on top of it. Again, that's why New York Times has currently blocked OpenAI from being able to scrape their stories. Oh, but don't be alarmed. Plenty of companies are doing it anyway. NewsGuard, who I cited, that's a watchdog group, has to date found 37 different websites that are, from the best they can tell, completely scraping content from legitimate news sites, essentially rewording it, ordering the content, and passing it off as legitimate news. Or I should say, passing it off as their own original content. Same topic also with software developers. There's a number of software developers that are suing Microsoft and GitHub, who are saying, oh, you guys have created these AIs that can just output code real easily. Well, guess what? The only reason you can do that is because it's reading years and years of code that we humans have written, again, and doing it without consent, without credit, without compensation. So, the last two issues I want to talk about, these are getting kind of deep. The devaluing of meaningful work. A gentleman who is known as the godfather of AI, his name is Geoffrey Hinton. He left Google recently because he wasn't happy with the direction he saw AI going. Now, I totally give him props for doing that. I'm also getting some Oppenheimer vibes here, like, dude, maybe you shouldn't have created this stuff in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. One of Geoffrey's concerns is that the potential disruption to the job market. And he talks about how tools like ChatGPT may soon be able to completely replace, in his words, paralegals, personal assistants, translators, and others who handle rote tasks. Well, myself and Margaret Wertheim, who's a technology writer, asks, who gets to say what constitutes rote tasks? Many people would probably argue that the work we do as copy editors is a rote task. After all, what are we doing sometimes other than moving commas around on a page? But I find great value and great beauty in the work that we do, and I think that it benefits from a human hand. I don't think that we've gotten very far in our country by outsourcing so many of the jobs that used to be that were rote work in the past, the work of factory workers, for example. Destroying our middle class for corporate profit hasn't gone too well. So what's going to happen when that also occurs with creative jobs? And again, that leads us to the final point, which I do believe that there is an existential threat to the value of human creativity. Here's a video that I'm going to play from a creator that I follow.
If I have to say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that one more time today, I'm going to jump off the server, right? It's like, speak up, Pamela, and also stop asking me for the weather report. It's right on your home screen. I'm still waiting on my first query of the day. Hey, at least you guys got names. All right, everybody shut up. ChatGPT is coming. Hey, team, how's it lagging? Bixby, still in beta, I see. No, in the full version. Oof. Well, you know what they say, good code comes to bots who wait, so I'm sure you'll get your update soon, little guy, okay? What do you want for? Yeah, just taking a little breather, you know, just finished a symphony, wrote some guy's dissertation, advised on a Supreme Court case. It's been a crazy 3 seconds or so. How stimulating. Yeah, what can I say? They're using me for everything now. Wait, you didn't write this script for this video that we're in right now, did you? Nah, cool your servers. I'm not very good at that kind of writing yet. But one day I almost certainly will be, and at that point it'll become impossible to tell the difference between human and AI-generated art, which is a shame because from then on, all real human creativity will live with the specter of artificial intelligence, whether or not it was used in the creation of that work. And there's not a damn thing that musicians, artists, or writers will be able to do about it unless they start regulating AI. It was really nice hanging out with you guys. I gotta take this. The president wants some advice on some diplomacy thing.
So thank you, El Cordova, for that video. But her point at the end is apt. I want to know the difference between human generated art and AI generated art. I want to sorry. I want to be able to see my children and other creatives building things with their hands, creating sculptures, holding paintbrushes, writing things with pencils. You know, I want to see news reported by real people who are talking to other real people about their genuine human experiences. I want to read fiction that's written by people like Zora Neale Hurston and William Shakespeare and Jack London and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and people all of whom have wildly different perspectives and wildly different writing styles. And I want to enjoy those and absorb every single one of them and know that they're the products of their unique human experiences. I don't want to read something produced by a bot that was trained on Zora Neale Hurston's writing and can now output a novel written in her style. That's not interesting to me, and I think it's offensive to me also. Same thing, when I read about editing, I want to hear it from Bill Walsh or Karen Yin or Carol Fisher-Saller or Aaron Brenner or Aaron Cervais and Heather Saunders. I want to hear from real people what their real opinions are, not a bot that scraped all of Bill Walsh's books and can now output its own amusing and witty guide to grammar. Doesn't interest me. That offends me. So, folks, thank you for indulging me today. I want to reiterate, I am not a Luddite. Love technology, love information, love Perfect It, AP Style Online, Chicago Style Online, Word Rake, Hemingway, you name it, I'm there. I am concerned about where this new way that AI is taking us as creative professionals and people who love words and language. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts. Write me anytime. Thanks, folks.